Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Vegan World 2026 Moonshot podcast. And today we are going to be talking about Asia and the vegan movement in Asia. So we are joined by Elly Nakajima, the founder of Animal Alliance Asia. And we are trying to get some of the country reps also. But yes, welcome, Elly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Sailesh. So nice to meet you finally.
Same here. So tell us a bit about your story. How did you start, and when did you go vegan, and how did you start Animals Alliance Asia?
Sure. So personally, I went vegan about 5, 6 years ago. I'm originally from Japan. I'm based in the UK, London. So as you probably all know, London is such a vegan-friendly city, and there are a lot of vegan advocates there as well. So it was very easy for me to transition. Um, so yeah, that happened about 5, 6 years ago. My first aha moment was when I saw a video footage of Beagle Freedom Project. They were showing beagles coming out of cages for the first time in their lives after being experimented for all their lives, basically. And they didn't even know how to get out of the cages. They didn't know how to walk on the grass, and it just absolutely broke my heart because I used to live with a beagle growing up in Japan. And I just knew how playful they are. And just compared to the beagle I knew, they just looked so scared, and it broke my heart. So that was an aha moment, and I stopped purchasing any products that were experimented on animals. And slowly over time, I made a connection that yes, actually, other animals that I was eating also had emotions like beagles. And so I started making that connection over about 2 years, and then I went vegan completely. And as soon as I became vegan, I just wanted to advocate for animals. Like, as soon as I knew how horrible the conditions were, what they were going through, I just wanted to talk about it. So I started with street outreach, as many vegans do in London. And yeah, and then I went back home to Japan on my holiday for my holiday. I also tried out street outreach there as well. There's
Mhm.
like very dedicated advocates there, handful of people, but much smaller in size compared to London, but very dedicated. So I tried that out, and I was blown away by how different the experience was in Japan. I
Mhm.
had to change the way I talk to people, and yeah, everything had to be very different. Your attitude, your tone, message. And yeah, I realized that, okay, we can't just copy and paste the approach from the West and apply that in Japan, obviously, because there's so much culture difference, religious difference, languages different, historical difference, political difference. So I decided to set up a YouTube channel in Japanese language first, to help vegan activists with their journey. So I was doing that for about 2, 3 years in Japanese. And yeah, I was happy to see a lot of new vegans and new vegan advocates liked my content. So then I decided that, okay, it's time to move on from that, because a lot more vegans decided to do what I was doing.
Mhm.
So I decided to move on and look at an even bigger perspective and think about Asia, because there are obviously lots of culture differences within Asia. It's the biggest continent in the world, and it's
Mhm.
so complex culture-wise and history-wise. But at the same time, there are some similarities between countries within Asia. But I felt it was such a shame that people were not communicating enough with each other. As you
Mhm.
know, there is a wonderful conference in Luxembourg in Europe, for example,
Right.
where advocates across Europe can come together and learn together, right? But I wanted that to happen in Asia as well.
Mhm.
So, together with my a colleague who now stepped away, Angel from Hong Kong, who was in London at the time, we decided to, yeah, hold a conference for Asian activists and advocates in 2019. So yeah, that's how we started. The conference was our first event ever, which was in 2020 November, and since then we've been growing from that.
Wow. So your first conference was in 2020 November. That was during the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
Wow. So did you do it online entirely, or was it in person?
Yes, it was entirely online. We wanted to do it offline, obviously. It would make a big difference for people to actually come together in a physical space so that organic conversations can, thrive.
Hmm.
But because of COVID, we had to do it online. But in the end, I think that was a right choice because not many people would have been able to afford to come to another country in Asia. Um, so in that way, I think online conference reached far more people across Asia than we would have in
Hmm.
on offline.
Yeah, wonderful. So, what does the conference? What is the conference trying to convey? You're bringing
Mhm.
together activists from around Asia and
Yeah,
looking at
so at
similarities.
the conference,
Mhm.
mhm. Yes, that's definitely one of the things that we want to achieve because, as I said, there are a lot of similarities we can learn from each other. And as a
Mhm.
conference and as an organization, we try to keep a neutral stance within all kinds of different approaches on the spectrum in our movement.
Mhm.
So, as an organization, we don't say we think welfare approach is better than, let's say, direct action. We want to invite all types of speakers and advocates from all across the spectrum because we don't know what works in
Mhm.
a specific community in Pakistan or India, Japan, because they're so different. So, yeah, we have been inviting speakers from all across Asia who are working on very different approaches. But one big theme for us at the conference is to find culture specific challenges
Mhm.
and culturally appropriate uh, methods and approaches and strategies. That's what we want to achieve through our conference.
So, tell us some of the surprises that you've had, you know, through the conferences. Yeah.
There, it's full of surprises always
Right.
because there's so much to learn from so many wonderful people across Asia who have been fighting for animals for decades sometimes.
Hmm.
And they have the expertise about their culture context, historical background, and we really need to, think about these elements, take them into consideration when we're advocating for animals in specific communities. There are lots of surprises. For example, religion is always a big topic in our
Hmm.
conversation, in our space. Um, because, for example, Buddhism, I always talk about this, but one of our colleagues from Myanmar actually shared this that, for a lot of people, especially in the West, Buddhism seems like a religion of peace and how we're just all passionate about for animals and a lot of vegetarian because there are a lot of vegetarians because of that reason, which is true. And at the same time, it's a bit more complex than that. For example, according to my colleague from Myanmar, because Buddhist people sometimes believe in reincarnation,
Hmm.
the non-human animals who exist at present time have done some bad deeds in their past lives, and
I
therefore
see.
they were born as non-human animals in this life. And that belief sometimes justifies speciesism, animal
Hmm.
cruelty, because some people may think they deserve to be treated badly because of what they've done in the past. So, and in Hinduism as well, how they,
Mm.
places animals and humans on hierarchy. So,
Right.
the caste system needs to be dismantled. At the same time, speciesism needs to be dismantled, at the same time.
Right.
So it's so complex, and we can't just, steal a slogan, go vegan, that we hear a lot in the West, because it's really not that simple.
Right. 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 So in the those who believe that animals are born into this because of the sins they committed in the past, do they also then believe that when they commit this sin, they're going to come back as these animals later in the next life?
Yes, that seems to be the case. Yes. I mean, I can't speak for them, sorry, because I wish they were here with me at the moment.
Right.
In Japan, we don't really believe in that, where I'm
Hmm.
from originally, but I would believe so, yes.
Fascinating. Some of the other cultural aspects that I have observed is that some of like the concepts that are coming across from the West, it really went from the East to the West and then it's not coming
Mm,
back. You see.
mm,
So Dr. Gabriel Cousins had told me that he went vegan in 1970s because he found out that the Hindu rishis have been vegan for thousands of years,
right.
and it is for their spiritual well-being. They were vegan, and so he did it for spiritual reasons. So
Mm-hmm.
the same way Dr. Will Tuttle had said that he went to, I think it was Korea, a monastery in Korea where people have been vegan for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
They don't consume any animals. They have never consumed animals for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that it's a practice that has been around. It
Yes.
just got formalized and sent back to us in the form of veganism, right? So it's about reclaiming our own heritage, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. Yes, that is a big theme as well in our conversations. We have usually we have to, yes, empower ourselves with our heritage that we actually had for thousands of years, as you just said.
Hmm.
Because as you just said earlier, the word veganism or vegan is an English word, and now it's coming back into Asia as a new form of concept. And yeah, it's been met with a lot of rejection and resistance because people see it as a new Western or elitist lifestyle
Hmm.
that have nothing to do with them. So in some cases, vegan advocates in some places of Asia are trying to come up with new term in their own language to
Hmm.
convey the concept of veganism, because it's just that word is just not working in some communities.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's navigating through these thickets, and understanding that um, the the indigenous culture had always been what living in harmony with the animals.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, definitely. And that's why we believe that we need vegan, or whatever you want to call it, advocates, animal advocates
Hmm.
in every corner of Asia. Because as you said, there are indigenous communities, religious communities, and there are so many different religions, and people speak hundreds of different languages across Asia. We
Hmm.
need leadership figure in every corner of Asia who can advocate for animals, because otherwise people would obviously not listen to outsiders coming in with this
Right.
new concept, veganism.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so we
Right.
need internal empowerment in each community.
It's fascinating with it that when I go to the villages of India, I people are vegan. They have no, because
Mm,
most of them, even if they're raising animals, they're raising
mhm.
animals to sell the animals or to sell the
Right.
milk. They don't
Right.
consume that. Yeah,
That's interesting.
because it's a source of money, income for them,
Right.
and that's because that's what the people in the cities want from them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what they eat is fundamentally vegan. I mean, they're actually cooking vegetables and rice and or corn bread and eating it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that is
So
fascinating.
yeah, it is fascinating. To me, it is. It's like we have to go and tell them actually the way you are living is what we are also striving for.
Yes.
That simplicity, that they have.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much we can learn from the East, right? From Asia,
Hmm.
from its historical diet.
Right,
Definitely.
right.
Yeah. One of our colleagues from Pakistan who might be here, I'm not sure if she's online. Is
Yeah,
she?
she's saying. Let me add her. See if she. Alia, can you hear us? You can unmute.
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Yes,
wonderful.
Oh,
I can.
yes.
Welcome.
Okay.
Yes,
Welcome from Pakistan.
I can hear you.
Okay.
We
Uh,
can hear you too.
Yeah,
we can hear you too. Yeah.
thank you. But I'll keep my camera off so that it doesn't disrupt again.
No, we understand. So tell us a bit about your journey and how you joined Animal Alliance Asia.
It's very interesting. Whenever I tell this story to anyone, it's like I was scrolling Instagram and I was searching for hashtag animal rights, hashtag vegan, because I was looking for an opportunity to join something that was vegan, not just rescue work, which I had previous experience in. And I saw
Hmm.
this post that Animal Alliance Asia was looking for advocates and reps from different countries in Asia. So I just inboxed them, and they got back to me. Ellie had a call with me, and since then I've been in Animal Alliance Asia, August 2020. Yeah,
Awesome. How did you
yes.
how did you develop an interest in veganism and how did you become vegan?
It's a very interesting thing because I'm Pakhtun, Pathan, different terms for it in the subcontinent. So we're very like I'm from a very meat eating family and
Hmm.
region in itself. So in 2016, friend took me to a talk where there was this lady, Dr. Ghazala. She was talking about animal rights and Islam, and it didn't make sense to me. It was so mind-boggling for me for the first time when I heard all of that. Although I had been a rescuer since ever and I had been working for animal rights, but I never looked at it from a vegan perspective or an
Hmm.
anti-species perspective. And I didn't get it during that talk, but down the line I started to stop eating meat, and I just then eventually went vegan in early 2020, thanks to lockdown when I started cooking for myself. So yes, that's been my journey.
Well, there are some blessings for the lockdown, eh? That's-
Yeah,
I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you, Alia, for that.
thank you for having me here. I'm so glad I made it.
Yeah, glad you made it as well. Yeah, we're having trouble with the bandwidth
Yes.
connections. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ellie, what are all? Where are all the other countries that Animals Alliance Asia has presence in at the moment?
Sure. So at the moment, we have country reps from India, Pakistan, Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Myanmar, Indonesia. Anything I missed, Adia? I think that's it for now.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for more country reps to join us from the rest of Asia, which is
Mm,
massive. So if you're
right.
watching this, if you're from any other countries, please come to our website and there's a page called Work With Us. And there's all the
Mm.
information about what your job will entail.
Wonderful. Because I mean, Asia has 60% of the world's population, and so if the vegan movement, if you're going to have a vegan world, it's absolutely critical that we navigate through the thicket of these cultural differences and these, I mean, the whole ball of wax that we need to sort of unravel in order to get to a world where animals are free everywhere.
Hmm.
And thank you for doing your part. I see Gulam has joined us as well from South Africa.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Welcome, Gulam.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you again, Salish.
So tell us about your journey and how you joined Animal Alliance Asia.
Yeah, I think I've got a very, very long journey, but I think as of recent, I've just been a little bit more involved in the animal justice and movement in space. And I think it was last year that just by chance I had come across an advertisement from Animal Alliance looking for someone to assist with fundraising. And I looked up the organization and I was really, really surprised. Firstly, that they had been around for a short amount of time, but had accomplished so much and built up this amazing following. And I really loved their programs. I loved the content of what they were doing. And I just thought it's so needed at this point, I think, in Asia. And what Ellie and the other co-founder put together was remarkable. So I had to reach out and I got an opportunity to meet Ellie and Angel, who's the other co-founder. And I think just from that moment, just hearing their passion and their stories as well, I just knew that this was an organization that I wanted to, in some way, support and to bring my background and experience to help them on their journey going forward. And since then, it's really only been, I'm counting the months now, not even 6 months, maybe. It's just been an incredible journey together with them. And just to see and to meet the rest of the team, watch everyone grow, bring what they've learned. Starting with passion, I think that's really, I've worked with many organizations, but what I see at Animal Alliance is this incredible desire to do good and to work together in a very safe and a very open space where ideas are looked upon as kind of gold nuggets and they should be cherished. And again, it's just, I think it's, if anything, it's changed me a little bit in this time, and that's always a good thing to know, that you're really, really good organization when that starts happening, when you really start thinking about your own personal journey as well. So I do thank Ellie for being a fantastic mentor as well, and someone that I do look up to.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So your flagship conference that happens every year. So you started in 2020, right? That was the first conference in 2020.
Yes.
So how has it grown from 2020 to 2021? And now I guess you're going to have one in 2022 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we definitely plan on doing that this year. And yes, it definitely has been growing, I'm happy to say, because the first year we actually had a lot of speakers from like the entire globe. So we had a lot of speakers from the West as well. But in our second conference, we decided to try our best to really focus on Asian advocates, Asian speakers. And we managed to have interpreters as well. So some of our speakers who didn't speak English managed to also share their expertise and knowledge with the rest of Asia as well, which meant a lot to us because that's exactly what we want to achieve. There's so much we can learn from each other within Asia, but obviously the English-speaking population is so tiny, and a lot of English-speaking people come from extremely privileged background, including myself, who had access to that type of education. And so we really want to make the space a lot more inclusive, which we're still definitely trying to work on. So having interpreters last year, I think, was a big step into that direction. And we want to continue that this year as well.
So that's a very important point you brought up. That the English-speaking population of Asia is the privileged in the current system, and of course we have to reach out and touch everyone, not just the privileged. But do you think that the privileged people in Asia are the ones who are setting the trend for the others? So it's.
Um, yes and no. So I think yes, those younger generation who speak English, who are on Instagram, for example,
Mm,
definitely these are the people who had access to the plant-based lifestyle from the West, who are now, copying that on their pages in their languages in Asia, who are importing that new trend into
mm,
Asia for sure. That's definitely happening. And at the same time, as I was saying earlier, that might have turned off a few, certain communities who had resistance towards Western elitist lifestyle.
mm,
But there are a lot of activists and advocates on the ground who don't speak English but have been fighting for animals for decades, as I said earlier.
mhm,
So there are a few different types of communities in the vegan movement who are doing different things, which
mhm.
I think is great.
Awesome. Anything to add, Gulam?
Yeah, no, I think so as well. And I think we're probably going to see this globally, but more so in Asia, because I think there's such a drive for entrepreneurship in amongst many of those countries. So you'll see in the plant-based space that
Mhm,
there's a lot of development happening there. And that's always kind of the gateway to get people to move into or understand what's happening when it comes to, climate change, or even start with their health. And then eventually, what the impact is of animal agriculture on the environment. So I think we're seeing a lot of that. Singapore is kind of the central kind of the tech space at the moment. Everyone's migrating there. There's a
mhm.
lot of development happening there, and there's a lot of interesting food development products coming from there. So again, it's a nice way to approach climate change and animal agriculture as well as health is by addressing it with food.
Right.
And I think like with most cultures, food is very important within Asia. So
Mm,
being able to mimic some of the traditional foods, I think it's a better way of people accepting it. And we're seeing as well that a lot of those who are actually developing the new food products and that way are under 30. It's a lot of young people. So
right.
the top 30 are under 30, or the top 30 are under 30, who are moving quickly into the plant-based development space. So I think that's just probably another area that we're going to see moving very, very quickly throughout Asia. So,
Let's see if Alia can join us now. Alia, can you talk about uh, how we can influence traditional cultures like the Pashtun culture that you come from, from their meat eating?
Right. So I've been thinking about this recently myself because one, I don't know if I should call it a positive thing or a negative thing, but there are not many Western alternatives available in many regions, in at least where I am at.
Hmm.
So this gives us a space to explore local recipes
Hmm.
and find local alternatives. And this is a trend that a few friends, we started. We started finding local alternatives and switching them into local recipes. Something that your grandmother made, something that you've always had since childhood. And the response was very positive. So we
Hmm.
see that there is a chance to do that. But I think maybe the way South Asians are, we're very linked to our food. Like we have a lot of nostalgia linked to it.
Hmm. Right.
So if we somehow connect those, like you can still have your nihari, you can still have your jalebi, but you can have it vegan. I think we might be able to creep in um, the vegan movement that way. So that's what I've been thinking about. But
Awesome. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, we've always had these plant-based dishes because you can't catch animals all the time, right? So sometimes you have to make do with what you have. So people are used to cooking without animals, and so it's just saying that that is actually the preferable way to live and not have to go eat animals because, especially, I went to in Rajasthan, India. I discovered that the women die 8 years younger than the men in the villages of India. And we trace that to the pollution that's in the trees. So, so the trees have stored all the industrial pollution from all the rain that has come down in the past. And so when the women were cutting the branches of trees and burning, they were getting that pollution. Okay. So it turns out that animal foods have 100 times the industrial pollution that you'll find in plant-based foods. So this is the reason why eating animal foods has become very unhealthy. So it's now preferable that we consume plant foods, for our own health, and for obviously the health of the animals and for the health of the planet. Yeah. It is that education that needs to happen. It's about telling grandma the way you used to cook when you didn't have meat. That's the way we all need to be eating. Right? Yeah. It's a fascinating return to our hearts, because that's what our heart will tell us to do.
There's an old expression: "A way to a man's heart is through his stomach." I think it's it's very old, very outdated now. Just a by story: I grew up in Canada, which is a predominant meat and dairy country, and I grew up. Well, my parents had immigrated there, so they brought a lot of the tradition and custom in food, and that was really one of the few things that we had brought with us. Everything else we had to basically kind of evolve into the culture of Canada. So some of the best meals I've had have always been kind of an Indian-based meal and predominantly vegetarian or vegan. So it was easy for me it wasn't really easy, but it was easier for me to kind of transition into being a vegan at a very young age, because I just knew and I'd been accustomed to some of the recipes that my mom had taught me, which were, vegan or predominantly vegetable based. So there's few things which are handed down. Today, I still cook some of the recipes my mom gave me, because it's my go-to vegan meals that I can make on my own. So when you have such a strong family culture and tradition within the majority of countries in Asia, this is the one thing that connects everybody. And you're absolutely right. The nexus between food and the environment. For many, many years, I mean, we've only been kind of sedentary for the last 20, 30,000 years, where we started to farm. Prior to that, we were just mostly gatherers, and everything was off the land. And you see a lot of that still in some of the rural farms in most of Southeast Asia. Those practices are still there. The cultivation, the harvesting and the preparing of foods. And it's all tied in with traditions. There's a lot of deep learning there. And also when it comes to medicine as well, and what we know and understand from the East, when it comes to traditional foods and what the benefits are of those. And those are all plant-based. There's no medicinal food that comes out of Asia, especially like in India, for example, that contains meat or has any kind of meat byproduct in it. So I think there's a return to, not just the tradition and the culture, but I think a return to the soil as well. And there's a lot to learn out of Asia when it comes to that. It's unfortunate, I think, because there's so much that's been westernized, with fast food chains and just with the influx of multinationals going into Asia and selling products a lot cheaper. And that's has had an adverse effect on people's diets and and their health and I think the mortality rate is being reduced. There's a lot of obesity happening in a lot of countries. I know Japan was one of the highest obesity countries in the last 10 years, which is disturbing, because a lot of the foods in Japan are it's very traditional as well, and it's not fat heavy. So so there's a lot of things that have changed, I think, in the last maybe just a couple of decades, that we've seen as a result of the consumption of meat in countries which were predominantly vegetarian. So, but I think we're hoping that with more education, and I think with just a better understanding and showing the connection between everything I think that we're talking about here, and through the education I think that we're doing through AAA via the advocates, a lot of that message will hopefully return and get passed around, so that we can make hopefully we can make better choices when it comes to our food.
Yeah, I think the fact that these changes are happening so fast, people are able to make the connection that,
Mm.
oh, it's when the McDonald's came in and these big companies came in, that's when our obesity rates started going up, diabetes started going up,
Mm.
So because these connections are sort of immediate in Asia, I think the reversal can also be immediate, because we know we can put two and two together. Whereas in the West, it was a slow process. You didn't know what was causing it.
Yeah.
But now I think it's becoming more and more obvious to everyone. So again, that is the colonization of our food. And through colonizing our food systems, they colonize everything. Right? So it is decolonizing and getting back to our indigenous roots. So when is the next conference for Animal Alliance Asia?
So the conference is happening again in November, but before that, we actually have a new program coming up,
Mhm.
which is an Animal Advocacy Academy.
Okay.
And that will run in summer from June to August. That's the plan. And it's exciting because we're doing it in 5 different languages,
Oh.
not just in English, so that we can reach far more people in these 5 countries. So we're doing it in Japanese, Cantonese, Hindi, and Urdu,
Oh.
and English for the rest of Asia for now. And yeah, we're gonna cover lots of topics, six workshops actually from June to August. And basically, the academy replicates kind of the journey that vegans or vegan advocates go through. So the first challenge that a lot of vegans face is communication issues, how to communicate, how to talk about veganism, how to talk about animal rights
Mm.
to non-vegan people, right? A lot of people go through a challenge in that. So we'll start with how to communicate effectively, and then we'll take them through what is a social justice movement, and
Mm.
can we learn from other social justice movements that happened in your country historically? What can we learn from them that apply to our current movement? And then we will take them through to the end of our academy, where they have the chance to strategize. So they will come up with a project idea. We'll help them strategize and come up with a specific project idea to share with the rest of the fellows. And at the end, we have a plan to invite some grant makers who are interested in Asia, who then we will link them up, so the participants will have the chance to actually kick off their projects in their country. So that's the plan for our summer this year.
That's from June through August, July through August,
Yes.
June through
I
August.
think it's going to be June to August, but it might be delayed to like July to September-ish.
Okay,
Yeah, over summer.
that sounds exciting. So
Yes.
is it like people register and then it's a weekly? How does that work?
It depends on each country how they want to run it.
Hmm.
I think it's going to be like every 2 weeks, but maybe I think in Japan it's going to be every weekend or something,
Hmm. Every
depending
week.
on what, like, yeah, the availability of our participants.
Wonderful. And that leads up to the conference, right? In November.
Yes. Yes. So between the academy and conference, we are hoping to have a country-specific workshop as well. So we have a plan on inviting leadership roles and individual advocates from each country. Sorry.
Mhm.
So it's going to be country-specific workshop done in their own language, local
Mhm.
language. So we'll invite these leadership roles from that country, get together on the same table online and talk about, okay, so what are some of the cultural specific challenges are we facing in Pakistan, for example,
Mhm.
and how can we bypass that? What strategies do we want to have, and what's lacking from our movement in Pakistan at the moment, and how can we fill that gap? So we
Mhm.
just want this to be an opportunity to start this conversation, inviting everybody, like all the stakeholders involved in the movement in that country. And
Mhm.
then that would lead us up to conference, and we're hoping to share some kind of report from that country specific workshop to a global audience at our conference.
Wonderful. When is the conference? Is it a week-long conference you're hosting?
Conference will be, yes, probably a week long in November.
Okay. Do you have a specific dates?
Not yet,
Not
sorry.
yet. Okay. I was just asking because we are organizing our Vegan World Convergences. It happens every quarter, and ours is November 5th and 6th.
Oh wow, you're so organized. We don't have dates yet, sorry.
Yeah, November 5th and 6th. And then we are also having, we'll make an announcement about this later. But
Mhm.
so because the climate conference is from November 7th through 18th, COP27.
Uh-huh. I think it's going to be the end of November, which was the case last year.
I see. Okay. Perfect. Sounds exciting. And let us know how we can help you in any way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm personally,
Um,
I'm an executive producer of like 9 documentaries. I'd be happy to make them
we know
available to
that.
you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, that means a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was just wondering, Alia, did you want to maybe talk about Academy and as well, and how you think it might impact people in Pakistan?
Yes, please. I think one positive, greatly positive thing about the Academy is that it is in Urdu. And now that I've started reaching out to different people who are working on ground, I think there is this was I was prepared for it, but it is shocking to me amount of disconnect between the English language and the people working in the front line. And I think that if we can train kids who are working on the front line on ground, who who do not who are not as aware that how the advocacy process feeds into the democratic system, and if we give them that power, I think we
Mhm.
will be able to make a remarkable difference. At least that's how I see it. And because maybe I'm coming in with my own personal experience that I was very unaware, very long ago when I started
Right.
activism,
Hmm.
and how learning really helped
Right. No,
me
this,
communicating be able.
yeah, you were cutting in and out, but we understood what you were saying. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is. So, will it be also online in these languages, completely online, or will there be a physical presence for the animal advocacy?
So for this year, Academy will also be online as well. We're
Mm.
just not prepared to do it offline just yet. But we're hoping that from next year, when we do our second one, in some countries where COVID situation is better, we might be able to do it offline. I mean, we would obviously prefer that to happen offline. So yes, we're hoping for that.
Yeah, at least locally, people can get together and collaborate. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I think she dropped off too, Alia. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any last words that you would like to leave our viewers with?
I have one. So I think I would be remiss in my duties as the fundraising coordinator for AAA if I didn't just reach out to everybody and all your viewers and say that we are a nonprofit, and all the amazing work that we do still require some support. So if anyone wants to partner with us or support us anyway, we're very more open to consider that. And just to let you know, yeah, that we're open to partnership and sponsorship and any donations as well. So
Wonderful. Do you have a Patreon account, or do you have a?
oh, not yet. We need to get one of those. But we do. One can make a donation directly on our website,
Okay.
or we can get in contact with either Ellie or myself, and we're more than happy to chat further.
Wonderful. There's a Rebecca is asking if you would like to come and present at our convergence,
Wow.
which our next convergence is the end of April, April 30th, May 1st.
Yeah, sure. Please invite us. I'd love to know more details, but yes, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's the convergence is this is for the world. So we are doing a vegan convergence of the peoples, which is getting to a vegan world is my goal because that's what my granddaughter has told me I have to do. It's my job.
Oh.
Yeah. So, how about you, Ellie? Any last words?
No, I'm just grateful that you invited us today. Thank you so much, because our role is really to get Asian advocates' voices represented a lot more in the global movement, which is just not happening at the moment. So you having us on with you today like this is a great opportunity to start that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's part of my duties as well to lend you a voice. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Alia says thank you as well. I think
Yeah,
her internet had an issue. Yes, she had to drop off.
right.
Thank you so much
Oh,
as
no,
well.
no worries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.